AVA is extremely configurable, but to prevent random changes in setup, modifying setup is limited to users with web supervisor privileges. This tutorial is going to show you how to configure booking status text and pop-up info in setup. When a job request is shown on a web page, it is color-coded to signify its status through its lifetime from the initial request to timesheet and payroll processing. For further clarity, we also provide a short status column of a couple of words and a pop-up which gives a fuller definition of the status of the shift. To change the setup, we first log in as a web supervisor or someone with web supervisor privileges. As a web supervisor, on the Web Manager's menu you can see and select Setup. The first setup page is a search page that allows you to enter in any word that represents what you want to set up. In this case we shall look for booking. Typing in booking gives us various options. For this tutorial we are interested in the booking status text. Clicking on this opens the booking status text and pop-up info page. There are 3 columns. On the left we get a heading for each booking status. In the middle column we can type in a short description, which is the name that we choose for the system to use for that status, and on the right a longer description which will be viewable as a pop-up. There are various stages when a request is placed. The first is the request is initially placed on the system. AVA gives the option to use the system as a booking management system, whereby somebody may place a tentative request for a shift to be filled and that cannot be processed until the shift request is authorized. This means there can be a management stage in the process before a shift is then dealt with and filled. When there is a shift on the system that hasn't been authorized, it is hidden from the back office, but it can be seen by someone in the management chain for that department. It can then be authorized and become visible for filling. If it is entered using the back office software, then it is automatically authorized. Once the shift is authorized, the short description is authorized. Subsequently, it can be removed or marked no longer required. The next possible status is that the unfilled shift can be offered to one or more potential employees, and that is briefly described as offered. In certain circumstances, the offer might be rejected or cancelled, and then it is marked as rejected. Alternately, the employee might accept the offer, in which case it is then marked as accepted. A shift can be marked as offer expired. For example, you might have a situation where you have offered the shift out, or the shift has actually started, but it has not yet been accepted. It is then visible on the system, but a worker cannot accept the offer for employment, because that would imply that they could accept an offer of employment after the shift had started and after they were due to be there. Their acceptance has to be before the shift starts. Even when somebody has been booked in, the shift can still be cancelled. Also, an employee can be moved from one area to another. The shift that was left empty by the employee being moved away is marked as moved. If a shift was filled but not worked, it is marked as missed. You might not want this to be called missed, so you could change it to not worked just by typing in the short description box. Once the shift has been worked, it is then up for confirmation as being worked. Therefore, it is waiting for the timesheet. If you are using an electronic facility to confirm timesheets, the employee can put their times in and say that they are working those times. The shift is then called submitted. If the shift is in dispute, it can be marked as on hold. And then if the dispute is cleared, it is marked as off hold until it is approved. As soon as the employer electronically approves the shift as having been worked according to that timesheet, it becomes approved. If the timesheet times have not been agreed by the management of the employee, then the shift is marked returned. If the shift has been marked not for processing before the employee actually confirms that they have worked the shift, then it is marked as disabled. Once the shift has been approved for payment and the payment has run, then it is marked as pay run. If, for instance, a request has been put in for a person of a certain status, and the person who has been employed for that shift doesn't match the original status, there is a not marked on the shift, and that simply says that they are not of the status of the original request, whether higher or lower. In general, a fuller explanation is not given. If the system is set up so that you can see shifts, but you don't have to be logged in to see them, which could be an example of an NHS trust behind a firewall, or say that you simply want to advertise that you have certain vacancies to be filled with a very limited description, then you have public pages. If the shift is being processed and visible on those public pages, we don't give specific information about if the initial qualification has been met or why. From a data protection point of view, we just say that it hasn't been met. When you are logged in with greater authority, you will then get more information about the booking. If there was an error in terms of the entry on the shift, it is marked as error. Any changes you make can be saved by clicking the Save button at the bottom of the screen. From then on, the various statuses of the booking process for various employees and customers will use those names to describe their booking status. So we have explained the booking statuses and seen how to edit and save them in Booking Status Text Setup.